Very good morning to all. I hope you are doing great. I'm also good. Very warm welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Reena and I am so happy to have you here. In today's video, we are going to talk about this subject industrial psychology, in which we are going to cover the unit 1 and where we basically discuss these topics: industrial psychological concept in development of industrial psychology, scope of industrial psychology, major problem of industrial psychology, and psychological test, characteristics of psychological test, types of test, importance and limitation of psychological test. So let's start with the first topic, industrial psychology and its concept. Basically, industrial psychology, also known as the industrial organizational psychology, and it is a branch of psychology that deals with the scientific study of human behavior in organization and the workplace. बेसिकली हम क्या देखते हैं कि एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में ह्यूमन का बिहेवियर कैसा है, कैसे वो काम करता है, कैसे वो डेकोरम को मेंटेन करता है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में. And basically, industrial psychology focus on how individuals behave, think, and feel in their work environment, and how this behavior affect the efficiency, productivity, and overall functioning of the organization. बेसिकली क्या होता है, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जब भी टास्क अलॉट किया जाता है एम्प्लॉयज़ को, तो एम्प्लॉयज सम टाइम क्या फील करते हैं, मोटिवेट फील करते हैं, एंड सम टाइम दे फील डीमोटिवेटेड because of the behavior of the top manager. And it is also important when the manager explain the task to the employees at that time, they also explain the task very efficiently and very calmly so that employees feel comfortable, and task should be time manageable. Next, we have the key aspect of concept. First, we have human behavior in work setting, and second, we have application of psychological principle, and third, we have improving organizational effectiveness. So, in case of human behavior in work setting, that means the industrial psychologist observe how employees interact with their work, co-worker, and the organization. And second, we have the application of psychological principles. That means the concept like motivation, learning, perception, and personality are used to solve the workplace problems. And third, we have the improving organizational effectiveness. The goal is to create the better work environment, improve performance, and increase employee satisfaction. और ये सारी चीज़ें हम कैसे कर सकते हैं, जब जो एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं उनके बीच में आप क्या करो, एक वर्क के बीच में उनको अदर एक्टिविटीज़ में भी इन्वॉल्व करो. दैट मीन्स जब भी कोई टास्क दिया जाता है उनके ओपिनियन को भी कंसिडर किया जाए, so that they feel the sense of attachment towards work, towards the organization. एंड टाइम टू टाइम उनको ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम भी दिए जाने चाहिए ताकि वो उनकी जो परफॉर्मेंस है वो इंक्रीज हो एंड वो मोटिवेट फील करें. एंड अगर वो अपने जो भी उनके टास्क हैं टाइमली अचीव करते हैं तो अकॉर्डिंगली उनको अवार्ड भी दिए जाने चाहिए ताकि जो एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं वो सेटिस्फाई फील करें. नेक्स्ट वी हैव the example of this one. So suppose a company is experiencing low employee motivation and high turnover. An industrial psychologist might conduct a employee satisfaction survey and also identify the causes of dissatisfaction. For example, poor management, lack of reward. Recommend the changes such as incentive program, training, and management style adjustment. This approach not only helps to improve the work environment but also boost employee retention and productivity. Next, we have the development of industrial psychology. The development of industrial psychology is closely tied to the growth of modern industry and the need to manage labor scientifically and how it evolved. in the early beginning, late 1800 and early 1900. The root of industrial psychologist can be traced to the Industrial Revolution, and which introduced the factory system and new work demand. Then next we have the German psychologist. He is basically considered the father of industrial psychology, and in his book Psychology and Industrial Efficiency, he discussed how psychology could help in choosing the best person for a job, personal selection, improving work efficiency, creating the best work condition. For example, it tested train operated operator to determine how had the best reaction time and decision making ability and helping reduce accidents. Second, we have the World War One and Second era. During the war, psychology plays a big role in military recruitment and placement. Army alpha and beta tests were developed to evaluate the soldiers' intelligence and stability for different roles. And this era marked the mass use of psychological testing. For example, the Army alpha test was used to determine whether a soldier was fit for a leadership position, clerical job, or combat role based on cognitive ability. Third, we have the post war growth, and it it's between the 1950s and 1980s. After World War II, attention shifted to employee motivation, job satisfaction, leadership, and group behavior. The human relation movement, inspired by Alton Mayo Hawthorne studies, emphasized the social side of work and how attention, relationship, and morale affect the productivity. For example, in the Hawthorne studies, simply changing the lighting in a factory increased the productivity not because of the change itself but because workers felt observed and valued. And in the modern area in 1990s and present today, industrial psychology addresses the complex workplace issues like diversity and inclusion, work life balance, stress and burnout, remote work, and digital transformation. Technology, data analysts, and AI are also used to predict the employee behavior and improve hiring practices. For example, modern HR department may use the AI based personality test or data analyst to access job application, cultural fit, and long term potential in the company. So, this is the summary of that topic, development of industrial psychology. Okay, so in early 19th, personal selection, basically they focus on the personal selection, and in World War One and second they basically focus on testing for recruitment, and in case of post war they basically focus on job satisfaction and motivation, and presently they basically focus on employee well-being and diversity AI tools. Next, we have the scope of industrial psychology. The scope of industrial psychology is broad as it covers almost all psychological aspects related to the work environment. It helps in optimizing the human potential in the workplace. And these are the key areas of scope. First, we have recruitment and selection. Second, we have training and development, job analysis and evaluation. Next, we have performance appraisal, employee motivation and morale, and workplace safety and health, organization development and change, leadership and supervision. So, let's understand one by one thoroughly. Recruitment and selection, that means designing and conducting tests and interview to select the right candidate. For example, using aptitude test to select the data analyst. And next we have training and development, identifying the skill gaps and designing training programs. For example, soft skill training for customer service employees. And next we have the job analysis and evaluation. That means where we basically understanding the job roles and responsibilities and required skills. For example, creating the job description and performance standards. Next we have the performance appraisal, where basically developing the fair system to evaluate the employee performance. For example, 360-degree feedback. And next we have the employee motivation and morale. We are enhancing the job satisfaction through motivation technique. For example, employee recognition program. And workplace safety and health, where basically we promoting the physical and mental health well-being at work. For example, stress management workshops. And next we have organizational development and change, managing change and improving organizational effectiveness. For example, facilitating smooth merger and restructuring. Next, we have the leadership and supervision, understanding the leadership styles and enhancing the managerial skills. For example, leadership training for team leaders. Next, we have the major problems of industrial psychology. Despite its benefit, industrial psychology faces several challenges: measuring human behavior accurately. And second, we have the cultural and personal bias, resistance to psychological practices. And fourth, we have ethical concern, lack of trained professional. Measuring human behavior accurately, that means the human emotions, attitude, behavior are complex and may not be fully measurable by test. And second, we have cultural and personal bias. Standardized tests may not account for cultural differences or individual personalities. Next, we have the resistance to psychological practices. Managers or employees may distrust or resist psychological evaluation. And after that, we have the ethical concern. That means issues related to privacy, informed consent, and trust issues can arise. And after that, we have the lack of trained professional. In some reason or small organization, there may be shortage of qualified industrial psychologists. Next, we have the psychological test. Psychological testing is an essential tool in industrial psychology to understand and evaluate human behavior scientifically. And these are the characteristics of psychological test. First, we have to check the reliability, validity, standardization, objectivity, and norms. So let's understand one by one each. Reliability, that means produces a consistent result over time. And validity, that means the measures what it claims to measure. And next we have the standardization, which means the administered and scored uniformly across test taker. And next we have the objectivity, that means free from examiner bias. And next we have the norms, which include a basis for comparison. For example, average scores. Type of psychological test, then the type of test, aptitude test. And the focus of, or you can say the purpose of the aptitude test to measure the potential to perform the task. For example, logical reasoning test. Next we have the achievement test, where we basically assess what a person has learned, and for example, school or academic exam. Next we have the personality test. And the focus, or you can say the purpose of personality test, is to identify the personality trait. And for example, MBTI big 5 test. And next we have the intelligence test. It is the purpose to measure the intellectual ability. And for example, IQ test. Next we have interest inventories. And the purpose of this test is to explore the career or activity interest. And for example, strong interest inventory. Next we have attitude scales. For example, Likert scale service. And the purpose of this test is to evaluate the attitude or opinion of the employees. Next we have the importance of psychological test, better hiring decision. And training need identification, career counseling, mental health evaluation research in organization, better hiring decision. That means it helps the employees to find the suitable candidate for the job. And next we have the training need identification test highlight areas where employees need training, and career counseling which helps the student and employees choose stability suitable career, and mental health evaluation which identifies the emotional and psychological issues. Next we have the research in organization. It is basically useful for studying workplace behavior scientifically. Next we have the limitation of psychological test, cultural bias, and second we have test anxiety, and third we have misinterpretation of result, and fourth we have possibility of cheating or faking, not fully predictive. So cultural bias, that means the test developed in one culture may not shoot for another. Next we have the test anxiety, nervousness can affect the result. Third we have the misinterpretation of result, inaccurate conclusion may be drawn without expert analysis, possibility of cheating or faking, especially in personality and attitude test, not fully predictive. That means tests are indicators, not guaranteed of future performance. So come to the conclusion. Industrial psychology plays a very crucial role in managing and improving workplace behavior. Psychological tests, when used ethically or correctly, help the organization make informed decisions about hiring, training, and developing their work force. However, care must be taken to avoid bias and ensure the fairness and respect the privacy and dignity of individual. So that is all about for the today's class. Thank you so much. If you like this video, then do like and subscribe my channel. Have a great day. Bye bye. Keep learning and keep motivating.